Hello, my name is Scarlett. I want to tell you about my journey, how I learned to talk in English. It was not always easy, but it changed my life. If you are scared or shy to speak, this story is for you. I still remember the first morning I decided to change something. I had just finished brushing my teeth and was standing by the window in my small bedroom, watching the sun rise over the rooftops. The sky was soft orange, and everything felt quiet, except for the loud thoughts in my head. I had been feeling stuck for a long time. My dream was simple. I wanted to speak English. Not perfectly, not like some great speaker. I just wanted to talk, to express myself, to say what I think, what I feel, what I like and dislike. But every time I opened my mouth to say something in English, nothing came out. My heart beat fast. My hands got cold. My mind froze. I knew some words, but they stayed locked inside my head, like birds in a cage. That morning, I felt tired of being scared. I sat on the edge of my bed and whispered to myself, "Scarlett, you have to start, even if you're scared." But how? English had always looked so big to me, so full of grammar, rules, long sentences, and hard words. I had tried before, but each time I stopped. This time had to be different. I decided to try something very small, something so easy that I couldn't say no to it. I looked at the glass of water on my desk and smiled. "Water," I said softly. Just that one word. Water. It felt strange, but also exciting. I had just spoken an English word, out loud, so I made a small rule for myself. Every day, I would learn and speak just one English word. Only one, not 10, not 20, just one. The next morning, I chose the word book. I held the book in my hand and said, "Book." Then I tried to say something more. "I have a book." I laughed at myself because I was speaking slowly, like a robot, but it didn't matter. I was speaking. That day, I wrote "book" on a sticky note and put it on the cover of my notebook. The day after that, the word was door. I walked to the door, touched it, and said, "This is a door." I wrote that on another sticky note and placed it right there, on the door itself. My room started to turn into a little English world. My mirror had the word face written on it. My lamp had a note that said light. My closet had the word clothes. Each day felt like planting a small seed. One word, then another. Sometimes I forgot a word and had to repeat it the next day. That was okay. I was not in a race. I was building something strong, word by word. Slowly, these words started to join each other like puzzle pieces. One day I picked the word apple. I held the fruit in my hand and said, "This is an apple. The apple is red." Then I smiled to myself. That was a full sentence. Two words I had learned before were coming back. This and is. And now they were helping me use apple. My confidence grew little by little. At the start, I only spoke in the morning, before anyone was awake. But soon I started saying my words softly during the day too. If I was in the kitchen, I would whisper, spoon, plate, cup. When I walked outside, I said, tree, road, house. I started to notice everything around me in a new way, as if the world had its own English name for everything. There was a small notebook I carried with me. In it, I wrote every word I learned. I also wrote simple sentences with each word. Sometimes, I drew little pictures beside them. The act of writing helped me remember, but more than that, it made me feel connected to the language. I remember a funny moment when I was holding a banana and tried to say, "I am eating a banana." But I said, "I am banana eat." I laughed so hard. Then I said it again, "I am eating a banana." It didn't feel bad to be wrong. It felt human. I was learning like a child learns, by trying, failing, and laughing. Every night before going to bed, I would read out loud the 5 or 6 words I had learned that week. I would say them slowly, clearly, and try to remember the feeling of learning each one. Some words made me smile. Some made me think of a moment from the day. I was falling in love with this small, slow process. One day, I met a neighbor who asked me something in English. It was simple. "Do you have the time?" I froze. My heart started to beat fast. But then I looked at my phone and said, "Yes, it's 10:30. My voice was shaky, but I did it. I spoke. That night, I wrote that sentence in my notebook and underlined it. I also drew a small clock next to it. That small win gave me energy for the next day. I thought, maybe I can say a few things. Maybe I am learning. It didn't feel like a dream anymore. It felt like a path, a long road I was walking on, slowly but with purpose. There was something else I started doing. Every time I learned a new word, I would say it in front of the mirror. I would look into my eyes and say, "Scarlett, you are learning." Then I would say the word and smile. The mirror became my safe place. No one judged me there. I could try as many times as I wanted. I could say the word wrong, correct myself, laugh, and try again. At first, I only said one word. Then, I started saying short sentences, like, "I like tea." "My name is Scarlett. This is my bed." I began to enjoy this simple activity. It became a small morning ritual. After brushing my teeth, I would go to the mirror, look at myself, and talk in English. That's how my next step began, talking to myself. After a few weeks of learning one new word a day, something inside me began to change. I didn't notice it at first, but slowly I was becoming more comfortable with hearing English come out of my mouth. That quiet fear I used to feel, the one that made my heart pound and my palms sweat every time I tried to speak, started to get weaker. It didn't disappear overnight, but every day I practiced, I felt just a little braver. I remember one morning, I was standing in front of the mirror after saying the word mirror for the 3rd day in a row. I looked at myself carefully. My face looked nervous, but my eyes were strong. I smiled a little and said, "Hi, my name is Scarlett." I paused. I didn't know what to say next, so I just repeated it. "Hi, my name is Scarlett." My voice sounded a little shaky, but I kept going. I like learning English. Then I looked away, embarrassed, even though I was alone in my room. But I had just done something new. I had talked to myself in English. And it felt real. That moment was simple, but it stayed with me. For some reason, talking to myself in the mirror made me feel safe. There was no one listening, no one to laugh, no one to correct me, just me and my own reflection. I wasn't trying to be perfect. I was just trying to speak, to form words, to listen to the way they came out of my mouth. So the next day, I did it again. I stood in front of the mirror and said, "Good morning." Then I looked at myself and smiled. "How are you today?" "Scarlett?" I answered. "I am fine. I am a little tired, but I am okay." It felt like I was talking to a friend, a slow, careful, gentle friend, a friend who waited for me to finish, a friend who never interrupted. Soon, this mirror routine became part of my daily life. I would stand in front of the mirror for 5 minutes, then 10. I would speak slowly, practicing every word I had learned that week. Sometimes I made silly faces, just to make myself laugh and feel less nervous. I realized that practicing English didn't have to be serious all the time. It could be playful. It could even be fun. At first, I used to write down short sentences on sticky notes and stick them on the mirror to help me remember. I am happy. Today is sunny. I like coffee. I will go to the market. Little by little, I stopped needing the notes. The words started to live inside me. They weren't just new anymore. They were part of my own way of speaking. But talking to the mirror also brought up some feelings I hadn't expected. Sometimes I would say something like, "I am proud of myself," and tears would fill my eyes. I didn't cry because I was sad. I cried because for the first time I was saying good things to myself. In English. I was being kind to myself in a language that once felt like a wall. Now, it was becoming a bridge. One evening, after a long day, I was brushing my hair and I saw myself looking tired. I said softly, "You did your best today, Scarlett." Then I paused and said it again, this time louder, "You did your best today." I felt this strong feeling in my chest, like I had just hugged myself. English wasn't just about grammar and vocabulary anymore. It was becoming a tool to connect with myself. There were days when I didn't feel like talking, days when I was tired or sad or full of doubt. But I made a promise to myself that I would at least say one sentence to the mirror, even on hard days. On those mornings, I would simply say, "I am here," or "I am trying." That was enough. And then, something new started to happen. As I spoke more in the mirror, I began to notice how my mouth moved, how my lips and tongue worked together to make each sound. I paid attention to the way I said words like world, or think, or people. If a word didn't sound right, I would say it again, and again, and again. I wasn't just talking, I was listening to myself, correcting myself, encouraging myself. One day, I looked at myself in the mirror and decided to tell a full story, just a small one. I said, "Yesterday I went to the park. I saw a dog. The dog was big and brown. I liked the dog." It was a simple story. A child could say it. But for me, it felt like a mountain. A small mountain I had climbed by myself. I couldn't stop smiling. After that, I started creating small conversations in the mirror. I would play both sides. "Hello, Scarlett." "Hello, how are you?" "I'm good, thank you. And you?" "I'm great." I would nod and laugh and even make little jokes. It felt silly at first, but also powerful. I was practicing real conversations without needing anyone else. The mirror helped me in another way, too. I started noticing my body language. At first, I stood stiff and nervous. My shoulders were tight, my eyes looked away. But over time, I stood taller. I looked straight into my own eyes. I smiled more. My voice became stronger, more steady. I wasn't just learning to speak English. I was learning to trust myself. 1. Evening. After a long week of work, I stood in front of the mirror and gave myself a little speech. I didn't plan it. The words just came out. Scarlett, you are doing something brave. You are learning a new language. You are showing up every day. You are not perfect, but you are improving. You are strong. You are smart. You are enough. I don't know where those words came from, but I said them with tears in my eyes, and they healed something inside me. That night, I realized that English was becoming more than a goal. It was becoming a way to speak kindly to myself, a way to grow, a way to become the person I wanted to be. Soon, I began to use my mirror time to prepare for real-life situations. I would practice saying things I wanted to say in public. Excuse me, can you help me? How much is this? I'd like a coffee, please. I would say them again and again until they felt natural in my mouth. When I finally said them, in real life, at a shop or a cafe, they didn't feel strange. They felt familiar, like I had already said them 100 times. Because I had. To my mirror. Sometimes I would pretend I was meeting someone for the first time. I would smile at myself and say, "Hi, I'm Scarlett. Nice to meet you." I would answer questions like, "Where are you from?" or "What do you do?" It was like creating small scenes from life. I even practiced phone conversations, imagining someone on the other end. I would say, "Hello? Yes, this is Scarlett speaking. Can I help you?" Bit by bit, these pretend conversations turned into real confidence. The mirror wasn't just a piece of glass anymore. It was my classroom, my training partner, my first audience, my secret friend. One weekend, I went to visit my cousin and she asked me, "Scarlett, your English sounds better. What have you been doing?" I smiled and said, "I talk to myself in the mirror." She laughed and said, "That's so you." But then she looked at me seriously and said, "It's working." That moment meant a lot. Someone had noticed. Someone had heard the change. And the truth is, I had heard it too. After that, I started to speak out loud in English even when I wasn't in front of the mirror. Sometimes while cooking. Sometimes while walking alone. Sometimes before sleeping. But no matter where I spoke, it always began with the mirror. That's where I first felt safe. That's where I first found my voice. I still talk to myself in the mirror, even now. It has become part of who I am. Sometimes I still practice new words. Sometimes I prepare for a big meeting. And sometimes I just say, "You're doing great, Scarlett." But as my sentences grew longer and my confidence grew stronger, I wanted more. I wanted to use English in my daily life, not just with myself, but with the world around me. I wanted to think in English, speak in English, and live in English, even if just a little bit every day. So I started looking for small ways to bring English into my daily activities. That was the next step in my journey. After weeks of speaking to myself in the mirror, I began to notice something wonderful. English was no longer just a subject or a language I was trying to learn. It was slowly becoming a part of me. I wasn't just memorizing words anymore. I was using them. I was speaking them. I was thinking in them. And that small change, thinking in English, was the key that opened a new door in my journey. One morning, as I brushed my teeth, I looked in the mirror and said, "Today, I will use English more. Not just in this room, not just with you, mirror, but out there." I smiled at my reflection. It was time to stop keeping English inside my little practice zone and take it with me into my real world. I didn't have a big plan or a special technique. I just knew I had to begin using English in my daily life, even in the smallest ways. I started with something very simple, my to-do list. Every morning, I used to write it in my first language. But that day, I wrote in English. 1. Buy groceries. 2. Clean kitchen. 3. Call Anna. 4. Practice English. It may sound silly, but switching my daily notes to English made a big difference. I was seeing English in my handwriting. I was reading it again and again throughout the day. And most importantly, I was using it with purpose. Later that week, I took another small step. I changed my phone's language to English. Suddenly, every time I opened my phone, I saw words like settings, messages, notifications, alarm. At first, it confused me. I clicked the wrong buttons a few times and once even set an alarm for 3 a.m. instead of 3 p.m., but I didn't change it back. I kept it that way. Every mistake taught me something new. Every new word became part of my day. Music was my next little change. I used to listen to songs in my own language on my way to work, but I decided to try listening to soft English songs instead. I started with slow, easy songs where I could understand the lyrics. I would listen carefully, sometimes even write down lines I liked. There was one song that said, "Take one step at a time. There's no need to rush." That line stayed in my heart for days. It felt like the perfect message for my journey. Soon after that, I began watching short English videos, just 5 minutes long. Cooking videos, daily vlogs, short news stories. At first, I turned on the subtitles, reading while I listened. Then slowly, I tried watching without them. It wasn't always easy. I didn't understand everything, but I didn't let that stop me. I told myself, it's okay to understand only 50%. Even 30% is progress. Then one day, while I was in the kitchen, I surprised myself. I was cutting vegetables and said out loud, tomato, onion, garlic, add some salt, stir well. I wasn't trying to practice. The words just came out naturally. I laughed a little. Wow, Scarlett, I said. You're cooking in English now. That small moment gave me an idea. What if I tried to do everything I could in English, even when I was alone? So I started describing my actions out loud while I did them. Now I'm making coffee. I'm putting on my shoes. It's cold today. I became my own narrator. My life became a little English story told by me, about me. It felt fun. It felt empowering. At the grocery store, I made a new habit. I would read every label in English. If something didn't have an English label, I would try to translate it in my mind. Rice, milk, butter, apples. I would say the words in my head, then sometimes whisper them quietly to myself. And when I reached the cashier, I challenged myself to say just one sentence in English, even something simple like, "Do you have a bag?" or "Thank you." My hands would shake a little, but I did it. One of the biggest moments came on a Saturday morning. I went to a small cafe I liked. I had been there many times, but I always pointed at the menu or used simple gestures. That day, I looked at the barista and said clearly, "Hi, can I have a cup of tea with lemon, please?" He smiled and said, "Of course." My heart felt like it would burst with pride. I sat down, holding my warm tea, feeling like I had just won a gold medal. Not because the sentence was hard, but because I said it, out loud, with confidence. After that day, I started using English in public more often. Not full conversations yet, but words, small sentences, greetings. Good morning. Excuse me. Thank you so much. Every time I spoke, I felt a little braver. It was like lifting tiny weights each day. I was building my English muscles slowly, but surely. Also started thinking in English. Not always, not all day, but in little moments. When I saw a flower, I would think, that's a beautiful flower. When I saw the sky, I'd think, it might rain today. My thoughts were changing languages. That felt amazing. It meant English was no longer just outside of me. It was inside my mind, becoming a part of my thinking. At home, I made more changes. I labeled things around the house with sticky notes. Fridge, mirror, window, spoon, chair. My little apartment became a mini English world. Every time I walked by an object, I said the word in English. At first, I felt a little strange, but it worked. I stopped needing to translate in my head. When I saw a spoon, I didn't think of the word in my first language. I just thought, spoon. Books also became a big part of my daily life. Not big novels. I wasn't ready for that yet. I started with short children's books in English. Stories with simple sentences and big pictures. I read them out loud, slowly. I loved one book called The Little Red Hen. It had simple lines like, "Who will help me plant the seeds?" I read that story 5 times, then 10, until I could tell it in my own words. I also kept a small notebook in my bag. Every time I heard a new English word or phrase, I wrote it down. On the train, in a shop, while watching a video. I called it my English diary. At night, I would read it and try to use those new words the next day. Sometimes I made mistakes, but I didn't. Stop. I knew that using the words was how I would truly learn them. One morning, as I got ready for work, I stood in front of the mirror and said, "Scarlett, you are doing this. You are using English in your life, and that's how fluency begins." I smiled, tied my hair back, and walked out the door with a quiet confidence. Even talking to my cat changed. I used to speak to her in my first language, but now I'd say, "Good morning, Luna. Are you hungry?" Or, "Come here, sweet girl." She didn't care what language I used, but I did. These small conversations helped me feel natural, relaxed. Remember one evening I walked past a group of tourists in my neighborhood. They looked a little lost. I hesitated for a moment, then walked over and asked, "Do you need help?" The woman smiled and said, "Yes, actually. Do you know where the art museum is?" I gave her directions, slowly, carefully, in English. When they thanked me, I smiled and said, "Have a great visit." As I walked away, I realized something. I had just helped someone using English, real English, in real life. It wasn't a practice session. It wasn't a mirror. It was me, living in the language. That night, I wrote in my diary, "Today I used English to help someone. I feel proud." And I did. Using English in daily life wasn't always easy. There were moments of doubt, moments I wanted to hide back in my comfort zone. But I kept pushing forward. I made English a part of my morning routine, my shopping list, my kitchen, my thoughts, my world. Little by little, English became like a soft background song in my life. It was always playing, even when I wasn't thinking about it. That's when I knew something special was happening. I was not just learning English, I was living in it. And then came a moment I'll never forget. One Sunday morning, I went to a local park. There was a small group of people talking in English near the fountain. They were laughing, sharing stories. I stood nearby, pretending to read a book just to listen. One of the girls turned to me and smiled. "Would you like to join us?" I froze. My heart raced. I wanted to say yes. Every part of me wanted to. But my old fear whispered, "What if you make a mistake?" Then I remembered something I had said to myself in the mirror just the day before. "You are ready." So I smiled back and said, "Yes, I'd love to." That one yes led to something beautiful. My first English conversation with strangers. I didn't understand every word. I didn't speak perfectly, but I listened, I laughed, and I spoke. And for the first time, English didn't feel like a foreign language. It felt like a bridge, a way to connect, a way to live. From that day forward, I knew what I had to do. If I wanted to grow even more, I had to practice speaking with others. I had to find real conversations, not just with myself, but with real people. That next chapter began with courage. That day in the park changed something deep inside me. I didn't go home feeling like I had simply spoken English. I went home feeling like I had connected through it. Sitting in that small circle, hearing their accents, their laughter, and their stories, I realized something I hadn't seen clearly before. English wasn't just a skill. It was a door that opened to new people, new cultures, and new ways of thinking. I wanted more of it, not just the language, but the life that came with the language. That night, as I sat on my bed, I thought about how I could improve faster. Speaking with people was amazing, but it didn't happen every day. My friends spoke my native language. My job didn't require English. I needed something I could do alone that still gave me the feeling of being with others, hearing real voices, real expressions, real language. That's when I remembered something one of the girls in the park said. Her name was Mia. She had told me, "When I was learning Spanish, I watched Spanish YouTubers every day. I learned how real people spoke, not just textbooks." I smiled as I remembered that. Maybe I couldn't go to an English-speaking country. Maybe I didn't have native-speaking friends, but I did have the internet. I had YouTube, I had Netflix, I had the whole English-speaking world right in front of me. And now, I had the courage to use it. So the next morning, I opened YouTube and searched "easy English conversations." Dozens of results appeared. My fingers hesitated over the keyboard, and then I clicked on a video that said, "A Day in My Life, English Vlog with Subtitles." It was a young woman walking through her morning routine, talking to the camera while making breakfast and walking her dog. I watched carefully, my eyes going from her face to the subtitles, line by line. "Good morning. I just woke up, and today is going to be a busy day." Her voice was friendly. Her words were clear. I repeated each sentence softly after her. I paused the video, rewound, and listened again. Then I played it again without subtitles, and for the first time, something clicked. The subtitles weren't just helping me understand. They were helping me connect the sound of the words to their meaning. I saw the words. I heard the words. I said the words, all at once. It felt like my brain was forming new wires, joining listening, reading, and speaking in one activity. That became my new routine. Every day after work, I watched one video in English with subtitles. I didn't aim for long videos. 10 minutes was enough. I chose content that felt natural: daily life, travel, cooking, shopping. Videos where people spoke how they actually speak in real life. Not slow, not robotic. Just natural, beautiful, messy English. I discovered a British YouTuber who made videos about books and tea. Her accent was different, and at first I struggled. but her subtitles helped me understand. "I'm going to make a cup of chamomile tea and talk about my favorite mystery novels," she'd say. I'd pause, repeat, rewind, smile. Sometimes I laughed when she said something funny. I felt like I was having tea with her in her little kitchen in London. Then I found an American woman who shared videos about cleaning and organizing her home. I thought, this is too basic. But then I listened. "Let's start with the kitchen. First, I'll wipe the counters." I realized something. These were words I used in my daily life: counter, spray bottle, sink, soap. I knew them, but hearing them spoken naturally with rhythm and tone helped me own them. I started using those same words when I cleaned my own kitchen. Sometimes I watched English cartoons made for children. They had easy subtitles, clear speech, and fun stories. One episode was about a cat that lost its favorite toy. It was simple, but sweet. I repeated the dialogues and smiled. I wasn't too proud to learn from cartoons. I was proud that I was learning. On weekends, I gave myself a fun challenge. I watched an English movie with English subtitles. The first movie I chose was Paddington. It was light, family-friendly, and full of kindness. I watched it slowly, one scene at a time. I paused to write down words I didn't know. Manners. Marmalade. Polite. I looked them up, said them aloud, and watched again. I even mimicked the bear's voice. "I'm from darkest Peru," I said to my mirror, smiling. Over time, watching English videos became more than a habit. It became a joy. I would make tea, grab my notebook, and feel excited, because I wasn't just watching. I was learning how to live in English. Sometimes the subtitles taught me more than just words. They showed me emotions, tones, and expressions. When someone said, "Oh, really?" I learned it could mean surprise or sarcasm, depending on how it was said. When someone said, "That's great," I learned to listen for their tone. Did they mean it? Were they being kind or cold? These small details helped me understand. More than grammar. They helped me understand people. I also made playlists. One playlist was called Morning Videos, full of cheerful vlogs and daily routines. Another was called Slow English Talks, videos where people spoke clearly and slowly. My favorite playlist was Fun and Real, which had cooking shows, travel diaries, and friendly conversations. Every time I watched, I kept subtitles on. I realized I was picking up phrases I hadn't learned in textbooks. "You guys," "kind of," "a bunch of," "no worries." These phrases were golden. They weren't the kind of English that exams taught. They were the kind people used with friends. I started writing them down in a new notebook called Real English. Under a section titled Everyday Expressions, I wrote, "I'm all set. That makes sense. No big deal. Hang on a second." Each time I watched a new video, I added more. And then, the next time I talked to myself in the mirror, or spoke with someone, I tried using those phrases. They made my English sound natural, not perfect, but real. Then came the day I challenged myself to watch a full video without subtitles. I chose a 5-minute video I had already seen before. I told myself, "You know this. Just listen." And I did. I understood almost everything. I was surprised, proud, excited. I felt like I was floating. I still used subtitles often after that, but now I had a new goal: less dependence, more understanding. I would watch once with subtitles, then again without. Then I'd try to say what I remembered out loud. I called it my watch and speak method. This method became my favorite way to learn. One day, I found a video titled, "How to Stay Motivated When Learning English." I watched it twice. The speaker said, "The key is not to be perfect. The key is to keep going." That line hit my heart like a soft wave. That's what I had been doing all along. 1 word a day, mirror talks, using English at home. Now, videos. I wasn't perfect, but I was moving forward. That same night, I sent Mia, the girl from the park, a message. I wrote, "Hey, I've been watching lots of English videos with subtitles. You were right. It really helps. Thank you for the idea." Replied, "That's awesome, Scarlett. Want to join our English video club? We meet once a week online and discuss what we watched." I was nervous, but I said yes. That next Saturday, I joined the call. There were 5 of us. We each shared a video we liked that week. I talked about a video on how to make banana bread. I said, "I didn't know the word whisk before. Now I know." Everyone smiled. It was fun, relaxed, and supportive. Watching English videos with subtitles didn't just improve my language, it opened a new way of seeing the world. It showed me how people in other countries live, speak, cook, drive, laugh. It helped me feel less alone. It brought voices into my room when I needed company. It gave me new friends, new phrases, and new courage. And slowly, with each video, I felt my confidence rise. One evening, while watching a video about making coffee, I realized something incredible. I wasn't reading the subtitles much anymore. I was listening, understanding, reacting. I was there, in the moment, living the language with the speaker. I smiled, paused the video, and whispered, "You're getting closer, Scarlett." And I was. Because the next step wasn't just about watching anymore. It was about using what I learned to talk to real people in real conversations. It was time for the next step. After so many days spent watching English videos with subtitles, listening, reading, mimicking, I felt a kind of shift inside me. I had gotten used to hearing English every day. I had even started dreaming in it sometimes. That felt magical, like my brain had opened a new door without me knowing it. But there was still something missing, and I could feel it. I needed to use English with a real person. It was one thing to speak in front of the mirror or repeat lines from YouTube videos. But the truth was, those situations were safe, controlled. I could pause. I could rewind. I could speak without fear of someone laughing or not understanding me. But life doesn't give you pause buttons. I needed to speak to someone who would reply. Someone who would interrupt me, laugh at my jokes, or not. And someone who would push me a little further than my comfort zone. But I didn't know where to start. I thought about joining a language school, but they were expensive and far from home. I looked at my friends and family, but no one really spoke English, and even if they tried, it felt awkward and forced. What I needed was someone like me, someone who wanted to practice, who didn't mind mistakes, and who also needed support. So I did something both scary and exciting. I searched online for an English-speaking partner. I typed in, "Find English," "Speaking partner free," "Practice English conversation online," "Language exchange websites." I was shocked. There were so many platforms, websites, apps, groups, forums. Some offered tutors, some had free speaking rooms, and some were built just for people like me, language learners helping each other. One website caught my attention. It had simple colors, friendly profiles, and a big button that said, "Find a partner." I clicked it with trembling fingers. I created my profile. Name, Scarlet language I speak, Spanish language I want to learn. English about me. I'm learning to speak English and want someone kind and patient to practice with. I love tea, walking, in the park, and watching English videos with subtitles. It felt like I was creating a dating profile, except this was for friendship and learning. I clicked save and waited. The first few messages I got were short and unhelpful. Some people just said hi and never replied again. Others didn't seem serious. I was about to give up when a message popped up from a girl named Ava from Canada. Her message said, "Hi, Scarlett. I'm learning Spanish and would love to help you with English. Want to do a 30-minute exchange? 15 minutes in English, 15 in Spanish?" I smiled. This was it, a real chance. We scheduled a video call for Saturday afternoon. The whole week, I felt both excited and nervous. What if I didn't understand her? What if I froze? What if my pronunciation was terrible? But Saturday came, and I sat at my desk, turned on my laptop, and clicked join. There she was, smiling, warm, with curly brown hair and glasses. "Hi, Scarlett," she said. "Hi, Ava," I replied, shyly. We both laughed. It felt awkward for only 10 seconds. Then, somehow, everything softened. We took a deep breath and started. We talked in English first. Ava was so patient. She didn't speak too fast, and when I struggled for a word, she waited. If I said something incorrectly, she'd gently repeat it the right way. For example, I said, "Yesterday I go to the store." She smiled and said, "Oh, yesterday I went to the store. Great try." I nodded and repeated, "I went to the store." Then, she clapped for me, literally clapped. It made me laugh so much. After 15 minutes, we switched to Spanish. Now I was the teacher. She made the same kind of mistakes I did, and I corrected her gently. It was amazing. We both helped each other. We both needed each other. That 30-minute call felt like 10 minutes. Time flew. When it ended, she said, "Same. Time next week?" And just like that, I had a partner. Over the next few weeks, Ava and I met every Saturday. Our friendship grew along with our language skills. We didn't just stick to the 15-minute rule anymore. Sometimes we'd go 40 minutes. In English, 20 in Spanish. Sometimes we played little games, describing pictures, telling stories, pretending to be customers in a store. She taught me phrasal verbs like look after, give up, and run into. I taught her tricky Spanish verbs and idioms. We joked. We corrected each other. We encouraged each other. One day I told her, "I watched a movie in English yesterday, only subtitles in English. I understood almost everything." She grinned. "Scarlett, that's incredible. You're not learning English, you're living it." That made me feel proud. After a month of practicing with Ava, my confidence exploded. I stopped being afraid of making mistakes. I realized everyone makes them, even native speakers. I stopped saying, "Sorry for my bad English." I started saying, "I'm still learning, but I'll try." Soon I joined a few English-speaking group chats. Some were from the same platform. We had video calls with 3 or 4 people. At first I just listened. Then I said a few words. Then I asked questions. By the 3rd meeting, I was sharing full stories in English. One girl from India, one man from Brazil, a guy from Turkey, we were all learners, and we all supported one another. We laughed when someone forgot a word. We helped each other when someone looked confused. It was beautiful, no judgment, just growth. I also tried some language exchange apps on my phone. Some had voice notes. Others had live text chats. When I felt shy to do video, I sent voice messages. I'd say something like, "Hi, I'm practicing how to talk about my day. Today I cleaned my room, watched a cooking video, and made soup." The replies were always kind. People corrected my grammar, but in a helpful way. Some nights, I even recorded myself before sleep. I would say, "Good night. Today I talked to Ava, learned 2 new words, awkward and encourage. I feel good about my progress." I'd send it to a speaking partner or just keep it to listen later. The more I spoke with real people, the more natural English felt. Something else amazing happened too. My brain began thinking in English. It wasn't every moment, but in small things, like when I opened the fridge, I thought, "Do I have milk?" Or when I looked outside and saw clouds, I thought, "It might rain today." I used to translate in my head. But now I started hearing the English directly, without a middle step. That made me faster, more fluent, more confident. And all of this began because I dared to talk to a stranger online. Finding a practice partner changed everything. It brought English into my real life. It turned me from a learner into a speaker. It taught me that communication isn't about being perfect. It's about connection, real conversation, real effort, real growth. And now, when I look back to the girl who whispered English words to her mirror, I smile. Because she took one brave step after another, and now she talks in English.